if you want to join us live or register and get notifications and such. And this program we do every week is a interview format. I'm just getting ready to launch the YouTube streams here, so let's see if that picks up the way it's supposed to. Um, there we go. And of course, it makes noise. I got to stop that. Okay, there we go. So we're also live streaming right now onto YouTube, and so we do this every week. And the goal here is most commonly to interview, professionals in the field, attorneys, vendors, people who can help us as professionals provide better service to our customers, learn how to be better. I think there's a lot of YouTube content on how to get business, but there's not as much on what to do with it when you have it. So I'm really excited to today again have an actual practicing attorney, a probate attorney, and I know that because I'm working with him on some matters. So I can verify he really is alive. He really is a probate attorney and really does file papers. Sedric from Legacy One Law here in Los Angeles. Sedric, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much for having me once again on your show. I'm delighted to be here this morning.
And so remind us again, I know you're in the LA area. Is there a particular market area? I think you're in West LA, Century City,
Yes,
Palisades?
our office is based in Century City, not even a mile away from Beverly Hills, about a block or so away from the Century City Mall.
Got it. Okay, good. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. So give me a little background. Obviously, like real estate, probate is a very wide market, very wide business where you have lots of different choices. Once you get your license, you're really able to practice in a wide variety of areas. How did you end up in both probate and avoiding probate through estate planning?
Well, initially, I'm an attorney who doesn't like court himself, right? Imagine a lawyer who doesn't like court.
Mhm.
And so I like to say trust in the states kind of found me, if you will. I speak about this a little bit in my book. Out several years ago, several prominent entertainers from the entertainment space passed away, didn't have their affairs in order. And that's the first thing that really got my attention with regard to the need in general, not just in the entertainment space, but over 60% of Americans in general don't have any type of plan in place. One thing led to another. I had friends, family members, and colleagues that didn't have their affairs in order. And then, several months later, I was able to start my own practice where I was actually helping those individuals get their affairs in order. Now, how I transitioned into probate, because for several years of my practice, I wanted to also my mission was to keep families out of court, out of conflict, but also keep myself out of court and conflict by doing an area of law that didn't involve me, going to court. But I had a colleague that I'd worked with for a number of years who reached out to me to get planning done for a parent. And unfortunately, that parent kind of declined to move forward and passed away.
Wow.
And that gentleman came back to me for help. I sent them to another firm, another trusted firm in the area. And I was doing this for several clients. I found myself sending several people who I could have helped to other law firms just because I wanted to kind of avoid the whole mess of probate myself. Then it kind of came to me that these people trust me and they're coming to me for a specific reason. So it only made sense that since I understood the probate process to help these people navigate the process. And so now I am in probate, as you know, and we have several families and individuals that we're representing their estates and helping them navigate the intricacies that is probate. So it went from a hesitance and reluctancy on my part to kind of just giving into it and saying, hey, I'm an attorney. This is what I do. And it's a kind of a natural progression to help families on the front end and also those who don't plan on the back end.
So there's a lot to unpack there because you're in the business. I think sometimes we don't realize, what's going on. But let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned in passing, which to me is a very common problem. A lot of why we end up in probate court is because even if somebody thinks they want to get a plan together, and even if they spend the time to meet with an attorney to prepare a plan, and in many cases, even if they execute the plan but don't move the assets into the trust, they end up back in probate court. Like, well, what was that about? It's amazing the number of people who don't finish the estate plan that they start with. I'm literally working on a case right now, a $40 million estate where he spent a lot of money to prepare such a plan and never execute it. So first, let's talk about, obviously you don't want that to happen. I mean, even though you get paid either way, I know, no human being wants to see them go through that. Why do you think people will go through the trouble of writing a check, showing up, doing 80% of the work and won't just get the papers signed and deeded the assets into the property. What do you think that's about?
I'm still kind of perplexed over that. I have several clients that have paid me and never followed through. And we either have to try to issue them a refund. Sometimes we understand that people are going to do this in their own timing. And unfortunately, sometimes as mentioned before, it never gets done. And there's a lot of trepidation and concerns about death. And one of the very first things that I had to do, and what my mentor shared with me in the beginning, is like, you first of all have to get real with your own mortality, right? And the fact that, so it's an emotional thing for the most part. And some of us will just kick the can. And then we'll kick the can until, unfortunately, we kick the bucket. And, if I can, speak kind of freely with that, you go from kicking the can, not getting the plan done. Now you kick the bucket and it's too late. And now you find your family finds themselves in court having to kind of fix or try to fix what you started. And so sometimes it's that's one instance. Then you have those who go through and actually sign the trust, execute it, but they don't take that next important step, which is funding it. That's, funding the trust is when you're actually letting the financial institutions know that you have this trust, assigning certain assets to the trust, retitling certain things such as your real estate to the trust. And many people, it's out of ignorance. They just don't know that they need to take that step. Perhaps they took the DIY approach and tried to go this on their own and didn't know they needed to take that step. And others, life just happens, or they're not great at following through, and it never gets done. And yes, despite having a trust, their family can still find themselves in probate.
Yeah, and I think that as real estate agents, this is for us the golden opportunity because I think by their nature, attorneys aren't salespeople. No offense. I don't think they like that activity, but we as realtors, that's what we do. And so we know our clients if they have a trust or not. We also know whether they deed the property in a trust or not because we can check public records and how the property is being held. And if we make a referral to an attorney, we can go to public records 90 days later and check. And I think our customers should appreciate a phone call saying, hey, Joe, I know you went to meet with Sedric and you got your plan done, but it doesn't look like the property's been deeded in. And until it is, you're putting at risk the protections that you put the time to get. And so that's why one of the main reasons I've launched this podcast is I really have a mission to get real estate agents involved, not legally, we don't give legal advice, but to be maybe the sales arm, the administrative arm, the follow-up arm to help our families, our friends, our clients uh, protect their assets and protect their legacies and protect their family structures and such. So I know that you also see a lot of people who come to you, but also contemplate doing it on their own, right? They go to an online service, and I've interviewed some of those services, and I do think that getting something like that, is better than nothing in most cases, but yet oftentimes don't provide for specific family issues. What are some of the most common mistakes or problems that you've seen in plans done that people may bring to you for review?
Well, I review trust weekly, and many of those folks, they come because we have this little inkling like, okay, we want to make sure we do this right. And here's the thing. We're in the information age right now. There's artificial intelligence, and we're always trying to find a way to do something maybe more quickly, more efficiently. And this is one of the things when it comes to DIY, I say, you know what, leave it to the experts to do this. Hey, you want to try a do-it-yourself project, maybe remodel your bathroom, right? Or repaint the kitchen, because if you mess that up, you simply can call a contractor in to get it fixed after the fact, right?
Yeah.
Cost you a little bit more money. But if you mess this up, you've already passed away. You've already become, perhaps maybe you didn't die, but you're permanently incapacitated.
Yeah.
And then it's also still too late to get this to get it done the right way. And the trouble with the DIY approach, Bill, is we just don't know what we don't know, right? So we go to these online platforms. It's really attractive because it's right there. We can do it on our computer, and it's a fraction of the cost of an attorney. But I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that certainly applies with estate planning and having it done the wrong way the first time, because it's going to be exponentially more expensive to fix after you die, and can also be more expensive. You're going to pay more when you come to me and say, hey, Sedric, I'd like you to review what's in place. And then once we go through all the errors and all the things that we missed, now all of a sudden you end up kind of paying twice. Maybe you only paid a few $100s on the front end.
Right.
And so that's just money wasted because we're going to do your entire plan over, but we're going to do it the right way. So you have peace of mind that it's done correctly.
I don't mean to be crass, but oftentimes it comes down to money, and I don't mean to in any way bring your service down to just cash. But I often say to customers, look, the difference between a cheap plan and a really good plan is maybe two, three, four, maybe, unless you're very wealthy, that's different, or very special needs. But for most people, south of $10 million, fairly standard family, the difference is maybe between $500 and $5,000. But if there's any defect in that plan when you go to court, you start at tens of thousands. It goes up from there and often is hundreds of thousands. And number one. And number two is the family dynamic that we see. And I know we have a case that I think we're just starting to work on with you, where you have these family dynamics where, dad had a relationship and the other siblings have resentment. And because it's not identified clearly in a plan, it now goes to probate court, where all these siblings can work out their dysfunctional relationships in public with attorneys, right? So talk a little bit about that, and why wouldn't we want to avoid that whole drama situation?
Well, and that's one of the shocking things when since, we're representing families in probate court now. Now I'm seeing firsthand the drama unfold as I'm in court representing a family. And a lot of the drama starts from the jump. Before the court. See, once you petition for probate, that's basically where typically a family member comes to us and says, someone has passed away, and now we need to petition the court. And typically the individual that hires us will want to be the administrator, right? But then there's the family dynamics getting involved. Several cases we've come to court, we think everything's in the clear, we've done notice, we've done all the steps necessary, and then a relative comes from out of the blue. And sometimes the person who hired me, they may or may not even know this relative. And then they come and they openly object in court. And so now what the judge wants to do, the judge doesn't really know all of the family dynamics. So they're going to give them more time. So we've had several instances to where now the judge is going to give that person 3 months to get lawyered up and to put their objection in writing. And now this is just 3 months. We have one client, well, this happened twice. We came in the first time and there was somebody who objected, and we're thinking we're in the clear and we respond to all of that. And then we go to another hearing. Remember, probate has not officially been awarded to anyone yet. We're still trying to figure out who's going to be in charge. And then another family member comes up out of the blue and objects. So now it's another few months. Right. So this is why probate can take a couple of years very easily here, because the court is going to give certain family members and heirs the opportunity to be heard. And so this pushes the timeline back. And we have open court arguments, the judge having to have someone sit down. The drama, the gloves come off, if you will, when it comes to estates. And there can be a relative who you haven't heard from in 20 years. Best to believe, if they know there's money and there's assets and there's real estate especially, they're going to try to get their slice of the pie, if you will. Even many times, in many cases, they're not entitled to anything.
Right. And the classic cases I find are the, I'm going to say girlfriend, boyfriend, other relationship that was never legally codified as a marriage, where that person believes they're entitled to the same legal privileges and financial privileges of a spouse. And, it's not the court's job, and I'm not here to judge people morally on that. That's not the decision. The decision is there's a law in California, and the law says no, absent, a marriage, you're not. And as unfair as that may be, and then that person may have children from the decedent, as unfair as that may be, that's the law. Now, if that decedent had created a plan, they could give whatever they want to whoever they want.
Absolutely.
And that decedent may have told the significant other they had a plan. And in fact, they may have written a plan and never executed the plan. That happens quite a bit too.
That does happen quite a bit. And unfortunately, I've been on the phone with the girlfriend of a decedent while she in real time is digging through boxes with me
Sure.
on the phone saying, he told me he had something. He told me he had something. His mother is on his way down to put me out of the house.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and actually, it's actually unfolding as the person is on the phone with me, and there's just nothing that I could have done for that person.
And the decedent may have wanted to take care of the ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It may have been in their heart to do that. It may have been in their mind to do that. They may have said it a million times. They may have proclaimed it on national television. But if they don't put it in writing, it's very difficult. That person has next to no chance of getting the rights and responsibilities. And then they end up, at least in my experience, then dragging the legal system as a way of extracting some compensation. And that's where it gets difficult. So real quick, let's do some housekeeping here if I can. This is Probate Weekly. We get together every Thursday morning, 9 o'clock is where we do it live. Though we are going to be changing formats here, so stay tuned to that upcoming change. If you're interested, you can sign up at probateweekly.com. Put in your email address. If you put your phone number in, you'll get some text reminders as well. You don't have to put the text reminder in, but obviously email will send you the link to the shows when they go out. And then we also have a Facebook group where both can see when we post the show ahead of time, as well as past episodes. And you can also post your own estate planning and probate content there. Love to have you do that. We have over 4,000 members. Also ask questions. And I find referrals, both inbound and outbound, for attorneys and realtors across the country. This is a national format. We do about 300 views a week. We have about 4,000 people who've been on the show. We have 4,000 members in the Facebook group. So if you have questions, referrals, feel free to put it in the Facebook group. Love to have you participate there. Our guest our guest today again is Sedric Collins, attorney here in Los Angeles. His firm is Legacy One Law Firm, and he has all kinds of explanation of what he does: estate planning and intellectual property entertainment law. He talks about his difference. I had seen him, met through a friend, and just right away saw he was the kind of attorney that I wanted to see my clients working with. And then I see you have a master class as well as a download. So talk a little bit about the master class, if you would.
Yeah, so the class build, I created this a couple of years ago. It's about a 25-minute video. It's a free master class. You basically put your email address in there, your phone number, and you get pretty much 24-hour on-demand access.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, it highlights the most common pitfalls we see from the front end estate planning process. And a couple of those we've already spoken about, like not finalizing your plan, the kind of the issues that arise with the DIY approach, not knowing what you don't know. And so I give a couple of real life examples of folks who had started on the process and maybe not finished it. I also talk about share one story where there was a particular lady who reached out to us, started off the process with us, hadn't hired us yet, passed away a week later. For some reason, we wondered, like, why didn't she show up to the appointment? And her brother called us, saw our packet on the kitchen table, and says, "Hey, unfortunately, my sister's passed away, and we see your folder here." And that's just, we get those stories often. So that's a master class of kind of pitfalls of what to avoid. It gives little highlights and tips to kind of, when you're in the shopping process, maybe shopping around for the right firm to serve you. And also, if you are going to do some things yourself, kind of what to avoid, if you will.
Got it. And then you also have a prudent planning for family legacy free download. Talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so we have I'm an author of a book called Prudent Planning for Family Legacy. Released that book in June of 2024. It's available on a hardback edition on Amazon. There's also a Kindle version. However, right now we are giving out free copies of the book, PDF version of the book, Kindle version, where you can have it on your smartphone or computer. And this basically pulls back the curtains, if you will, and demystifies the estate planning process. Most often when we're giving consultations, many people don't know the differences between a will or a trust. Now, we know many people in your audience may be sophisticated, they may be professionals, but the average person doesn't really know the difference, regardless of the amount of assets that person may have. Right. So just because they're cash rich or asset rich doesn't mean that they necessarily understand the basics of estate planning. And so we go over a lot of that. in this book everything from naming guardians for kids, the differences between your healthcare directives and powers of attorneys, the differences between wills and trusts. Also, a very important chapter is choosing your team of professionals. Every family should have a team. And that team, in our opinion, should include of course, your attorney, your tax professional, your financial advisor, and if you have own real estate, should be your real estate professional, right? So these are your team of people who will help you navigate protecting your family legacy. And I have a chapter devoted directly to that, the key people that you should seek out help from when you embark on this legacy planning venture.
So for everybody on here, often I get asked, well, where do I start? I want to, I mean, I'm a real estate agent. I know what I'm doing as far as selling houses, but I want to get into the space and do more. You see, this is the consumer-facing piece of an attorney to their client. This is what we need to master so we can introduce our clients effectively to the attorneys. And so I would urge you all to sign up for the masterclass, watch the video, learn the issues at hand, as well as download the ebook and read it. And I have to tell you, I've probably downloaded and read 20, 30 ebooks, and a lot of it's the same, but you get one or two good nuggets. And the other thing is, now you can't post their content, you can't post the PDF, but you can post a link to their PDF. And so I think I urge everybody to find one or two or three attorneys that kind of fit your customer base, just like I'm promoting Sedric on my podcast. You should be promoting your preferred probate attorneys and estate planning attorneys on your social media. And one way is a link to their, what I call their front door, their entrance. And so the front door to working with Sedric could be the masterclass or could be the PDF. And it's also good content for your customers. So I would urge you all to take a look at it, particularly if you're in the Southern California area, and learn the material, number one, if you're in California, number one. Number two, if you're in the area, and Cedric's the kind of attorney you might want to work with, I would consider reposting the links to his content and explanation. Hey, here's a free, great class. If you're thinking about what to do, here's a place you can get some information for free. We all like free, good quality information, and you should vet it yourself. You shouldn't just pass on whatever you get. You should make sure you vet it for your customers, and that's important. So, okay. So Audra, thank you for joining us today in your shout out. Glad to have you here with us, and you sending your information on the website. Very good, Audra. Well, that's taking action right away. So, and now for those of you on the call on the Zoom, you're welcome to jump in with either questions. You can raise your hand, or if you're brave, unmute and jump in with a question. Love to have you participate live. We're kind of moving away from this format in a few weeks just because I don't know if it's the time of it or people no longer seem to participate in Zooms anymore. They look more for more just to receive the content. So, but here's a chance to talk to an attorney. Many times realtors will say, I can't get a hold of attorneys. I can't talk to them. I have questions for them. Here's a chance to talk to a real life attorney who I know, as I said, I know he really does business because I'm doing business with him. I say that and I crack myself up. Okay, let's move on. So Sedric, part of what I want to talk about a little bit is for people who want to work with you. I think that I was introduced to you by a professional fiduciary I work with. And because we work well together and he worked well with you as well and thought a lot of you, he thought it was a nice connection. And I thought so right away. I'm sure you work with a number of real estate agents. You get approached, when you file a case, you get cold calls, I'm sure. Talk about, first off, let's talk about on the positive. What are the best practices? Imagine if you had a nephew who wanted to start in real estate, wanted to work in probate, maybe not in your market. What would you recommend them to do to build their business as a real estate agent and to serve their customers in this particular niche?
Well, yes, and that's your referral partners, right? You develop that referral partner network, if you will. And you're right. I have been approached by several real estate professionals. They'll see the probate listing because it is public, but then some of them go the extra mile. I had a gentleman who went the extra mile. And he found me on Facebook, reached out. I had no idea who this person was. He was very friendly, very endearing, invited me out to lunch. And we had some nice Brazilian barbecue and just kind of learned about, talked about life. And I figured out with this particular real estate professional that we had a lot of things in common and we're even neighbors. He lives like within a mile of where I live. And so that just came from a random reach out. He was friendly. He said what he did, and he wanted to learn more about what I did. And so sometimes taking that approach, just so long of the short is just don't be afraid to reach out. Yes, some of us can be very busy. Most of us are. But if you find a way to get a hold of us and provide some value, then that's how you get that relationship going. And next thing you know, you can be maybe including at a probate matter and a probate sale, just by having that sit down coffee or that lunch with that attorney or other financial advisor or other financial services professional. Because if you check out in my book, if you want to get a little clue of who these people are, right? Look at my book, the team members. When I have that chapter devoted to your team, your dream team, if you will, what I call it in the book. And so check out that chapter, because those are your referral partners. Those are the people who are either managing assets of the decedent, have relationships with the family. And a lot of times we get pulled into the probate picture from a realtor who is a friend of the decedent or the family. They reach out because they realize that they have to sell this house. So a lot of times they won't call my firm first. They'll call a realtor first. And the realtor will say, hey, well, there's a process called probate. And then they'll invite me into the picture. So each of these key people in that dream team, if you will, are potential referral partners for you. And that's a great way to start expanding your professional network and in turn, expanding your business.
It's so true. Just to talk about, there's a recent case that you and I I guess you have a appointment hearing coming up next month. And so we're going to be starting to work on that one. And it's just so funny how that one came to me, because I work with a national service that, among other things, serves attorneys with like paralegal help and some of the administrative work that otherwise they would do. It's ideal for like sole proprietors, who one of the struggles is they generate business, but how do you manage it? And so I've worked with them, and then I introduced them to a professional fiduciary, and they brought him on the deal. And then one day they refer me a lead where the customer is the fiduciary and the attorney is Sedric. I'm like, this is funny. Well, because I introduced them all together and they all kind of got along. And I also think that the thing that's important in referrals is it's not the 100 attorneys on the list that you're cold calling, it's finding the one or two or three that really work with you. And I to be frank, the fiduciary that introduced us, Sedric, he and I've probably talked about 20 different people, but you're one of the few people I said to him, I think he's really a fit. And I don't even know why, I don't know what it was about you. I really still can't put my finger on what it was, but I remember saying to Kevin that exact thing. I don't know why, but I just feel like he'd really be a really good fit for us to work with attorneys. I liked your heart, where you came from with it and whatever. And here we're doing business together. And I think that's the thing, is that when your heart is helping people and wanting to work with good people in your referral team, I think you get more business from fewer people if you're smart about it.
Absolutely. And it is about who's going to work with you. You're exactly right. When I was starting my business and trying to grow during the beginning parts of the pandemic, we were handcuffed a little bit, right? Because no one could get outside, and it was Zoom only. But through LinkedIn, I had countless interviews with financial professionals, real estate professionals, but they won't all stick. You'll find your tribe. The people who want to work with you will work with you. And so it starts by reaching out to those people, because you may have one relationship that may seem very promising, and you never hear from that person again.
Right.
The one person who you don't expect anything to come from, they send you 2 or 3 clients, and there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, you just never really know.
You never know. Like I said, I remember meeting you. I remember saying to Kevin, I don't know what it is about him. I wish I knew what it was, because then you could duplicate it, right? It was just, there was something about the style. There's something about the focus. And to this day, now I will say, I love your voice. I mean, I can listen to you all day long.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You definitely have a voice for radio and I guess a face for television. Question for Audra. What's the maximum commission a realtor can charge to list a probate estate? And the decedent, now the word is actually decedent, not descendant. So it's DECEDENT. They decede from them, which means to pass, as opposed to descend from, has 2 estates. So I'm going to give an answer. I'm not an attorney, and so I reckon I'll get you to kind of correct or provide the legal stamp of approval on it. In probate, actually, there's no real limit. There is a limit on the listing time period. You can't list a property for more than 90 days, or else it's invalid. And there's no real limit on the commissions you can charge, unless there are local rules to the contrary. In Los Angeles County, when properties go before the court for court confirmation, there is a local rule that limits properties, single-family homes, to 5%, land 10%. And it's interesting because with the changes in the real estate commission procedures now, we don't list a full commission, meaning buyer and seller to our client. We only are allowed to list our listing commission. And yet those local rules have been updated. So it's an interesting question. Could you list a property and get 5% as a listing agent and then pay the buyer's agent, let the buyer's agent get whatever they want or not? I'd be interested to see what a judge would say. I think at some point they have to update the local rules in Los Angeles. But again, the answer is there's no real limit other than local rules. And then again, in LA County, court confirmed properties have a limit of 5% for houses and 10% for land. Anything there that you want to add on to that, Cedra?
That's accurate, Bill. And the thing is, when you have that court confirmation process, it's just an extra safety measure there to make sure that the interest of the estate is being, protected. So whenever you have either full authority or limited authority, we're going through this with a particular client that we have right now. When you have those limited authority cases, it's going to be that extra court involvement, that court confirmation process in the sale. And that's where, yes, the judge is now involved. And it does kind of delay. There is some disadvantages for having that court confirmation process, because now it can kind of draw things out a little bit. It's a little bit more paperwork from the attorney, paperwork from on the realtor side or the fiduciary side. Yeah. But it just basically the court at the end of the day wants to do what's in the best interest, if you will, of the estate and the heirs. And so they'll put certain restrictions and limitations on that. But Bill, since you are the real estate professional, many of the estates that we deal with, sometimes there's no real estate. So you probably have more direct experience seeing that that's your line of work. But yes, there are limitations to what you can do, and those numbers, they sound accurate according to the local rules here in LA County.
Yeah, and again, I think it's interesting that the rules haven't been updated and need to be, because if nothing else, just cut in half, just because to keep the same percentages. But we'll see how it goes. So I'd asked you about what the things one should do about developing business. We talk about referrals. What do you see as some of the mistakes, if any, that you've seen real estate professionals make in either developing business and or handling business on behalf of your clients?
Well, first of all, when we talk about developing business with that professional, here's the thing, and I've encountered this with a couple different potential referral partners, is you want to limit your expectation with you want to develop that relationship with that professional without expecting anything in return. Let me be careful with that, because first of all, no one has to send anyone a referral. And I've had some situations in the past to where I felt like I was being shaken down by a real estate professional or by a financial advisor, because I say, wait a minute, I sent you this person. Why aren't you sending me? And it was a total turnoff, a total put off. So you have to be patient with these referral relationships. You may refer me someone today, right? And then 2 years later, I send you a deal that puts $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in your pocket. But if you grow sour or grow impatient, thinking that, hey, well, I sent you someone, why aren't you sending me anyone? You could be, spoiling the relationship from the beginning. You never know when someone's going to, and this is a piece of advice that might help someone. You never know when someone in your referral network is going to send you someone. You want to reach out. You want to say happy birthday. You want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Can I be of any service, any value to you? But never, ever hold your hand out, because you're going to, and that's in a sense, that's almost biting the hand that could potentially feed you. And I've gone through this 2 or 3 times during my career with not just people from the real estate space, but also from financial advisors that are hungry for business. And so that piece of advice might help someone, because I've lost some relationships from people maybe expecting that I would, since they sent me someone last month, that this month I would kind of dig into the coffers, if you will, and here you go, here's a house or a listing. And it just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't, and I think one of my first mentors in business was Zig Ziglar. And he said, you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And I know when I launched this podcast, people say to me, well, how are you going to get paid on this? And it's true, I do make a little bit of money from YouTube, but that just covers some of the costs. It's not business. And I do generate business as a result of it, but I didn't do it to get the business. I just knew if I help people, somehow it would work itself out, and I didn't really anticipate helping other realtors, but I do help them and I get referrals as a result. And I do help attorneys who get business as a result of this, which is great. And some don't give me business, and that's okay because probably we're not a fit to work together. I think that's the other thing is the same person who maybe isn't referring you business is also maybe not the right person for you to do deals with. They'd be tough to do. You wouldn't like them. You wouldn't like the way they work. And so I think really the focus is if you just focus on creating more value, like you have an ebook, you have a master class, you're creating value for your customer, and as a result, I'm sure some stick and do business with you. And I imagine, if you wanted to do more, you did better work, you did more value to your customers, you would get more business. And that's why I do the podcast, and that's why you're on this podcast, is to reach out to your prospective clients and offer them. And so I think you're so right. I think that was one of the things that attracted me right away, which was, I'm not here to necessarily refer you a deal today, though I'd love for people on the call who are appropriate to reach out to you and establish that relationship. But I just know that if I help people, it all kind of takes care of itself and I don't have to worry about it too much.
Absolutely. And I thought someone in the comments mentioned long game. I saw
Yeah,
that pop up in the comments, and that's
yeah,
exactly right. It's the
yeah,
long game.
yeah,
Most of us, we're doing this as a profession, and we can be doing this for 15, 20, 25 years, however long is your long game. And
yeah,
you just never know when that person may come in with that deal that could be a game changer for you and
yeah,
can lead to other deals.
yeah.
So just play that long game, foster those relationships. I have a newsletter that I send out to all of my referral partners. I try to send out some type of holiday card or do something to
Yeah.
provide value. One of the things that I do to provide value, sometimes I offer free estate plan reviews for real estate professionals, or especially when we're trying to start that relationship, right? It says, okay, hey, look, you have a client that has a trust, and that trust, that trust is 15, 20 years old. I'll tell you what, I'll do a complimentary estate plan review. We typically charge $1,000, but I've given out so many of those for free, just to start their trust relationship with that professional. And so think about what you can do as a listing agent or a realtor, if that's you, or a fiduciary that might add value to that professional, because that giving that something might open the door to start that relationship.
100%. And I know when my first training in real estate was from a famous coach, Mike Ferry, and he would discourage anything other than sales. Like, don't solve people's problems. Look for people who have to sell their house and list it. And today it's the opposite. I love when people have a problem, and sometimes it involves research, getting a property profile, doing a comparative market analysis, estimating what a property is worth, reviewing the title with them. Because if I solve the problem, then they can move forward and they need somebody. And enough times it ends up being me. And so I think
Yeah,
as real estate agents, we should be riding to the sound of the gunfire. If somebody has a problem, we want to show up and help them. If we do that enough, then we'll get business. And if we run away from it, we're probably going to have a problem in the long run. So, and I'll just share
absolutely.
a statistic with you. Um, when you buy leads, I know in law, you can like advertise with marketing companies and they send you leads or they advertise for you. In real estate, when you buy leads on average, the timing from the day of the lead starting their search to the close of escrow on average is 2 years, on average, which means a couple things. One is half or is more than 2 years. If you don't have a system to stay in touch with them forever, you're going to lose, or at least more than 2 years, you're going to lose half the business. And second, that we give up on leads after 30, 60, 90 days, they're going to germinate in 2 years. Why should we give them to a competition? I think that's your point about the relationship in the long game. So,
Absolutely. And to add to that, I had a gentleman I met at a Christmas party, a holiday party, and he was an entrepreneur. He didn't get into the details of what he did. He literally watched me for a year before he made a decision to hire me. And how do I know? Because he told me, I've been looking at you for a year, an entire year, and now I'm ready to reach out to you and to start. And we did a couple of I helped him form his corporation and some other things I helped him do with his estate. But people are watching, absolutely. So I'm mindful of that as a kind of professional tip. The content that you put out there, you're exactly right, Bill. Folks will sit back and they will watch you. They'll look at your post. They'll look at your interest. They'll stalk you on Facebook, if you will, whatever they're doing, because they want to get a feel for you before they trust their legacy with you, before they trust you with the sale of their home or what have you. So absolutely, long game, but that matters when it comes to that lead nurturing process, because we just don't know where they are in that buying cycle, if you will. But at some point, they're going to hire someone, and you want that person to be you.
And you point out your example is such a perfect example that I find the longer people take, though, the deeper the relationship. You're like establishing a relationship through your content. And so when they choose to work with you, they're already kind of pre-sold and they accept you as the expert. So many times, people who get referred right away to me and don't do that background check, they're like arguing with me about the value of the property. They're arguing about the strategy of probate. And I'll say to them, listen, if I'm not the expert, then you shouldn't hire me to sell your house. I'm okay with that. Like there's a million realtors in America. Pick one that you're going to, respect. And if it's not me, I'm okay with that. But when people who watch my content regularly will call me and say, I can't believe you picked up the phone. I pick up my phone all day long. But when people watch the content, it's a different relationship. And I've had attorneys who, generally speaking, are dismissive when I call them. But the ones who've seen my videos will go, yeah, I know who you are. I follow you. And I'm thinking, I wonder what that means. But anyhow, it's better than not. Okay, so we got a long, complex question. Let me see if I can get this one. My mom's credit claim was rejected by the special administrator and her lawyer. She provided evidence of paying property taxes for 23 years. Lawyer said she put it on the wrong form, which was a credit claim was sent her and MC3, a special form of reimbursement. Her mother passed in 2002. Okay, so Audra has a question about a creditor claim. I don't know if that's something that you want to talk about. And you really can't give legal advice, I don't think, on a call like this because you don't have a relationship, just like we as realtors have to have a signed form establishing our relationship. So for those who are asking these kind of questions, in general, I will say this, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this subject. In general, probate is a very particular, specific process. Everything has the right form, and every county has the right form, and every judge has the right way they want to do it. And you have to follow their system. There's 90% of stuff is rejected, not because of the basis of the claim, but because the format that was presented in, the judge can't even get to make a decision because it's not presented to them properly. Without regards to this particular question, is that a fair way to summarize, in particular credit claims and errors and airships and things like that?
Exactly, it is, because probate is in court and litigation in general is very procedural. And there's these, we mentioned this earlier, Bill, there's local court rules. And so whenever you're embarking on litigation, it's very important for the attorney to know the judge, the local court rules. So that way they can avoid pitfalls, filing the wrong forms and documents. In probate, there's a probate attorney that works with the actual judge in the court. We have notes that we have to clear. They have questions for both parties that you have to have answered many times before it even goes before the judge.
Right.
And so it could be an easy fix if something was incorrect, a form. This is where you need that legal counsel. And if you're working with an attorney, the attorney should know the proper form that the creditor claim needs to be submitted on for that particular court. And if it's a simple fix, an error, then it can be easily remedied.
And I would say, Audrey, you need to find either an attorney, at a minimum, maybe an experienced probate paralegal that knows the right format for that county. And that's another big mistake I see regularly is you'll have local paralegals trying to file claims in other counties, and those local counties have their local rules, and things get rejected because they have their own form or their own procedure. And so definitely, I don't have there's no way Sedric can give you advice here on the call, but I would say other than get an attorney who can help you, or at a minimum, a paralegal, probate specialist paralegal who does probate in that county. I think that's an overlooked important distinction for most people.
Absolutely. And just to add to this, since we're with a lot of many real estate professionals here, you want to liken this to when you're trying to record a deed in a specific county. We help our families record deeds all over the state of California, and there's some recording offices that are sticklers for certain things, and others are more lax. For example, different counties with the preliminary change of ownership report. Now, I may be speaking your lingo now, right? When it comes to these properties, some counties, they don't require this. Other counties, they require. I've had deeds rejected because in a certain county in the Bay Area, they don't do it this way. And so now the deed is rejected, and now I have to figure out what their particular PCOR form is for that particular recording office.
Right.
It's the same thing in probate. And like Bill was saying, it may have nothing to do with the merits
Right.
or the validity. It may have everything to do that you just didn't follow, or that person didn't follow procedure and use the proper form.
Right. And that's the thing that lay people don't understand. I know, like, for example, in politics, there was a lot of talk about, well, how many lawsuits President Trump had that were declined. And without getting in regards to whether there was the merit or not, lots of times they were declined because of format or procedures or jurisdiction rules that have nothing to do with whether or not he's right or wrong about the crime or the action. The judge doesn't even consider that until all the other things are put together. And in this case, the judge isn't going to consider a creditor claim unless it's put in the right form at the right time, the right procedure, in the right way. Then they'll look at it. Everything up until then is going to be, sorry, but you haven't formatted it right, and I can't consider it until you format correctly. That's to protect the judge as well as protect the estate.
Absolutely.
Another question from Joseph is that SFR is co-owned by 4 siblings, occupied by 2 of the heirs, with the entire property being exempted by Prop 19 or 50% be reassessed because the other 2 heirs are non-occupants? That's a good question. I don't know. You have to kind of research that. Of course, there's one trick might be to transfer property one at a time. I know there's a famous exemption in Prop 19 for country clubs, like golf courses. Yeah, the Riviera Country Club's property is probably worth $2 billion, but it's being assessed at I think 1978 rates because there's thousands of members, but they only change over one member at a time. So they never even change ownership by 1%. Therefore, they never triggers reassessment, which is kind of bogus. So I don't know how familiar you are, Cedric, with Prop 19 reassessment requirements, and if you have 4, if there's 2 heirs that own 2/4 of the property, does that cause a reassessment, or what strategies might you think about there?
Well, here's the thing: the Prop 19 is still a new beast, if you will, passed during the pandemic. And for the first couple of years, we like to say we're still trying to get a feel for strategies to try to help our clients to the best that we can. We're still figuring things out because it is so new. Okay. But one of the things that we've been seeing happen as people have been dying under this new law, right, is yes, if you have multiple beneficiaries or who are multiple inheritors of a piece of property, we've seen situations where they will prorate the benefit based upon, okay, there's 4 people who own this house. Now maybe there's only one person that's going to move in. So now maybe you're going to get a 25%, right? They'll prorate it. We've seen that happen a lot. And so, like I say, this law is still new. It's only a few years old now. And so the implementation, we're still figuring out strategies. When we're doing our legacy planning, we do tell them the basic rules regarding Proposition 19, that you have that. If you want to get that full credit, then whoever the heirs are do need to reside in that primary residence. It's from primary residence to primary residence. And it's unlikely that you're going to get 4 adults to live in one property, right? And that's the issue. That's the issue. But it's much simpler if there is one beneficiary, one child who is going to move into that property after death, then they can get the full privilege of the exemption, right? Because it's only that one heir. But we have seen prorations of the benefit or of the exemption based upon multiple heirs and maybe only 1 or 2 of them choosing to live on that particular property. Who knows what the legislation might do to kind of modify that over the years? Who knows how long Prop 19 is going to be here? But we have to just assume it's here to stay for right now. And when we're doing legacy planning with our clients, we just kind of bring up these things. These are some of the issues that your heirs or your beneficiaries of your trust are going to have to deal with. So maybe some of these things can be worked out in the front end with your planning. Who right. is actually going to live in this house? Is there one child that is going to want to live here, but the others won't? Then a deal can be worked out sometimes on the front end with your planning to how the other beneficiaries are going to get taken care of. This is why planning has been so important, because you can plan with the distribution to kind of offset some of the setbacks of the laws, if you will.
And the proper plan just on that one issue can more than pay for the cost of the planning overall. And that's an annual fee of property taxes you can avoid if you do it properly. So I think the short answer is you need a professional, and the attorney can fight for you on this stuff too. In my experience, it's not this legally correct, but the assessor almost always reassesses the property. And what I find is that even with a proper plan, the county assessor will send the assessment, then they go back to the attorney, and the attorney then, having done the groundwork and having thought about this ahead of time, is able to go back and effectively fight to get that assessment overturned. But you're probably going to get a reassessment just because the county finds it cheaper to reassess and they make you challenge than they do to underestimate, and they get more tax dollars that way, and that's all they care about. So.
Absolutely. And even on the front end, we see this problem from time to time. It's more rare on the front end when we're putting the property into the trust. I always tell the client, look, if you get a letter from the tax assessor, let our office know. We'll go to bat for you. We'll get it remedied. We've never had a situation to where someone was I had to end up paying but the tax assessor is definitely going to send you that notice. And when they do, we'll just say, hey, it's a mistake. Their exemption, here's the exemption. We filled it out correctly on the preliminary change of ownership report, and then it goes away. So that's another advantage. Now, if you took the DIY approach, you got no clue. Now you're panicking. You're thinking, oh my God, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Now my taxes have gone up this much amount. Had you worked with that professional, the professional said, hey, we see this. Send this to our office. We'll communicate with the tax assessor's office for you. We'll show them the proper documentation. This goes away. And you can sleep at night knowing that it's handled but if you, like I say, if you go about it yourself, you don't know what you don't know. And there's just going to be more stress for you as well.
And if you thought the tax assessor was busy last week with 1,000 houses burned down, every one of those is going to get a reassessment from a house to a smoldering pile of lot vacant, and they're going to, most people will properly file to save the taxes on the property that burned down. The county taxer is going to be overwhelmed with requests and changes, and then rules and assessments and verifications, and there'll be fraud. So these are the reasons why, if you can avoid problems, you always want to avoid them in the first place, and proper planning in every aspect of life is one way to do that. So, Sedric, I know we've been going for a long time. I always enjoy talking to you. I always feel like we go longer than we should. So forgive me for tying you up so long today. Again, just a quick recap. Sedric Collins is our guest today, and he is the proprietor, the attorney of the Legacy One law firm. And I put into the chat box below the link to his firm. It's legacyonelaw.com. And then on his website, I put the link in the chat box for those as well. If you scroll down, he has a couple free premium items that I think are definitely worth anybody who wants to learn about this business, and also to promote to your customers as a great resource. A masterclass is free that will talk about the major issues on planning, how to protect, and also a free download, an ebook on planning for your family as well. So, Sedric, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate having you on again, as always.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much for having me. And please, anyone who has any questions here, we do offer free consultations. I'd be more than happy to be a resource because I know there are some complex questions here. If I can be a resource, please do reach out.
Thanks so much. And for everybody else, again, this is Probate Weekly. You can go on to probateweekly.com, register there with the email address, and we'll send you out the link when we go live or new issues are put out, as well as we have some premium materials we send out from time to time as well. Love to have you join us. And then you can join the discussion afterwards at our Facebook group, Probate Weekly. We have 4,000 members. Feel free to post your probate-related and or estate planning-related content on our channel. I have people who do, and they get nice views, and it's a way, like Reen does this, it's a nice way to promote your YouTube channel and your content, get more views, as well as people there ask for referrals for attorneys, and look for attorney referrals for real estate agents there all the time. So love to have you join us on the Facebook group as well. I'm Bill Gross at Bill Gross Probate on social media. BillGrossProbate.com is my website. And thank you, everybody, and have a great week, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all of you.
Bye-bye.